you've got to have good knowledge about what it is. So you can't go into business, do something that you don't have at least the depth of knowledge in, and it's got to be something that someone else is going to pay you money for, right? So a lot of people happy to do things, but it's like, well, if no one's willing to pay you money for it, then you're never going to get anywhere. You've got to put in lots of energy. You've got to believe in it and push it and be willing to flex and change as you go along. So when I started the business coaching, that was a franchise system. A franchise platform can fill in some gaps for people who don't have it. You pay for the privilege, of course, but then it's about learning, get to the stage where you can do it by yourself. So lots of different ways to do it, through your networks and friends, and again, working in different businesses to see how they do it. The beauty with auditing was you get to go into the back of many businesses, and you learn over time, ones that are run well and ones that aren't.
Thank you so much for turning up blind.
My pleasure.
Not literally blind, but obviously.
Sunglasses are at the door.
Yeah. Yeah, we're super excited to have you on the pod and have a conversation with you about your long, illustrious career. Thanks for having me. No problem. Thanks, Darren.
And so kind of, what are you working on at the moment to build your well?
Right. Well, effectively, I'm owning small businesses, and of course, like every New Zealander, a couple of houses.
Yeah.
So really believe in equity, bit of sweat equity, working hard to build up some assets that will provide cash flow in the short term and hopefully retirement value at the end of it.
Okay.
Or not even then, yes.
Okay. So how did you start doing that then?
Look, I qualified as a chartered accountant, has got to know the numbers.
Yeah.
Travelled a lot, and then never thought I would, but I ended up being a partner in an accounting firm. So now I'm a managing partner at $1 million, and we have 100 people, so a decent sized business. I spend a lot of time, with the accounting is realizing it's that looking at other people, this is how it's done, but not appreciating how to make money.
Yes.
So I became a business coach. I spent 5 years advising small business owners on how to improve their businesses. At the start, I didn't really know what I was talking about. I had an accounting background, auditing, and then, through that process, I learned a lot, which actually is providing a lot of value to me now of how to think and what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what, give us some examples of some of those lessons that you learned early on.
Well, don't necessarily go into business with friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard that.
Yes. And with family, but no. And I think, yes, well, one is starting with the end in mind and what you're trying to build, and got to be clear on or not crystal clear, but got to have a vision and have the ladder leaning on the right wall to point in the right direction. As to say, do some things which don't work.
Yes.
But there's things like in business leverage. I believe in systemization, a huge focus on efficiency. I see people working really hard but doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so trying to make sure you're doing the right thing.
And so is that something that you that mindset, did you come across that when you started doing the business coaching side of it? Or was that something that you've had that maybe your family cultivated in you?
Yeah, well, I think there's certainly you're born with values.
Yep.
Or you inherit that values through your family. I grew up on an orchard, so had a farming background.
Yeah.
My summer holidays were spent picking fruit, which my children hate to hear because they enjoy a good life, whereas I was always hard. It's hard work, but it was certainly a little bit of that working as a student working for money and that whole thing about how do people behave with money. Are you a saver? Are you a spender? And then that certainly farm life. The cash flow comes only in the summer, right? And at some of those days there was cash.
Yeah.
So and I used to help my dad deliver bags of apples around all the factories in Onehunga, and that was just a small business, and that's you learn some things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I bet you would have learned a lot around how to interact with people and negotiation and all those kinds of things.
Yes, and that's it's you learn you learn through time, and I try to. What I found is, especially my current role, is lots of different opinions, but there's there's what's happened. There are facts underlying anything, especially in finance. If explain to me, like a 12-year-old can understand, step us through the process. What happened? When did it happen? What are the documentation? And you flow it through, and then you can. I find a lot of people try to give you jargon.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, what do you mean by that? And sometimes you realize they don't know themselves. But it's a good way to get to understand things.
Okay. And so you were brought up on an orchard.
Yes,
How did you get into accounting? What was it about that? Because that's quite two different worlds, right?
it is. And I just remember being 14 years old and going, we started accounting and economics, and I quite liked it. And then I remember going to the library and opening figure ordering situations vacants, and oh, look, lots of jobs for accountants. And that's when I decided to be one.
Okay.
I don't know why. But don't trust a 14-year-old for it. But yeah, from then I went on to university and just flowed from there. So, a bit weird.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it that made you want to get into owning your own business?
Well, it's back to this wealth creation and stuff, and I guess I like to be my own boss. Not a good necessarily listening to other people and doing what I'm told.
Yep.
From that side, a little bit creative,
Okay.
and I like to get things going.
Yep.
So perhaps not the best finisher. Lots of energy and lots of ideas. I think very fast, and so I just like to get on and make things happen.
Yeah.
Make things started.
Okay.
Yeah, but I need the team behind me to help.
Yeah.
I think I've finished it.
I was going to say it's important to know your strengths and challenges, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, play to your strengths. Yeah.
Yes. So, can you talk us through how that kind of business started up? Like, what were some of the things that you, decisions you had to make and things you put in place to get the ball rolling?
So you're working at one of the big four.
And then I'm looking for what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend who was in business doing business coaching, and I liked what he was doing. And I knew that I didn't have exposure to marketing, business development, been in auditing. So I thought this would be the way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped into that.
Was there a preparation? I mean, there's two paths we can go down here. One being that there are lots of people that are working in large accountancy and consultancy firms that are probably thinking what you were thinking at the time today.
Yeah.
Of, okay, I'm, there's this illustrious path to being a partner, and very difficult to get to in a sense, and you have to, I guess, toe the line in order to get there. It's probably quite political. And then there's obviously the idea of venturing out and kind of taking a shot on yourself or pivoting to something a little bit more boutique and niche. What would you say influenced your decision to kind of do that? And did you do any prep work? Did you kind of get some savings together? Like, did you create like some sort of safety net for yourself, or was it just a leap of faith?
The starting point was really, are you going down the corporate road, or do you go down something different?
Yeah.
So corporate road is safe, but I was looking at people 10 years ahead of me, and perhaps rich dad, poor dad, looking at people trapped into these lifestyles.
The heroin hour salary.
No, I was just first child.
Okay.
I had brought back money from working overseas, so I had most of a house.
Yep.
But there was no nest egg, there was no family wealth. And I guess through the orchard and, the small business pushed me that way.
Would you say that your parents and that upbringing had a marged that influence then on that decision, kind of mixed in with the fact that you didn't really like the idea of the path 10 years ahead of you?
I didn't really get advice from my parents, and I think there's something that perhaps I shouldn't ask for. I would have actually appreciated in hindsight some guidance. I mean, as a parent now, I find it hard to, tell my children what to do.
Yeah.
But encourage them in the right way. And I think there's times where I look back and say, well, maybe if they helped me in some areas, it would have been really good. So,
do you think that was there some sort of kind of stigma within the family, do you think, of like not talking about certain things, or do you think it was just that you didn't ask, or they didn't think to kind of talk about it, just didn't come up?
Good. I mean, my dad was a builder. Got into his orchard, just just did it, so it wasn't not really talked about. And in some families you talk about business, you talk about managing finances and things, and some families you don't. And I think it's a definite difference between those in a job and a career and a rush. Sometimes you call it, people do the same thing for decades, and so you're in that environment. It's hard to break out of that. Yeah, totally.
Has that influenced the conversations you have around with your children then, do you think? Like if you were brought up in a family where those things just didn't come up?
So absolutely. So yeah, my two oldest sons are at university. So my third son wants to be an entrepreneur. But just talking to them about being in business, how to do things. You've got to take some risks, and you've got to work hard, very hard, and some things don't work out. So yeah, so trying to breathe that, and obviously to be open to learn as much from everywhere. There are other options, like in hindsight, perhaps working, having the equity options in the right startup company. But again, 1 in 100 works, so it's a bit of a lottery. So make sure you're choosing the right course to back.
Okay.
Well, and it's a kind of I was actually listening to a podcast by a guy called Guy Spear, who's a value investor out of Switzerland. He's English. He's English. He is Jewish descent. That's his family's coming from Germany. But he's really kind of stoic and wise. And he talks about when you're young, being able to make bets and take some risk, but not take so much risk that you get 3 bets in and you can't make the 4th. So which was quite interesting. I think you're quite right that the earlier you are, the more calculated risk you can take. But you need to avoid taking risk where you're out of the game. Right.
Not absolutely, not everything. So I think also, when you're young, get exposed to lots of different things, take lots of different jobs to learn different viewpoints. There's a lot of jobs out there where you can pick up different skills. So, just, customer facing roles, in a role in sales and a role in, I worked in a factory, I worked here and there, and just I understand those things, and no, I don't want to work there. Yeah. And so play, and to find what you do enjoy, and what are the things that make you happy, and focus on that. I mean, if you have a massive passion, it may be great, but it may not, pay the bills. So make sure it's something that's be that. But I think experiences, what I learned through the business coaching, which exposed me to a whole heap of the thought leadership, or the way people and I think, and reading. There's lots of literature out there about set habits and things like that. We had there's a time of stuff, understanding people, looking at personality profiles, all that sort of thing, which I certainly didn't get through my accounting involvement. But opening myself up and being open to learn through other means is great. So encourage anyone to keep learning. I thought when I finished university, I thought, great, no more lessons, no more scores, and then the first day at work, they said, "Oh, don't dream it's over. You just you'll be doing more learning now than you've done in the past," and it's true. So even as a director in the last decade, I've learned a heap. So I'm a different person now than I was 10 years ago, and I've got a lot more knowledge. So so it's cumulative, luckily.
I guess that exposure to is quite good in a way. It's like being an uncle or a grandparent in a sense when you're a business coach, because you get to give all the biggest problems back, but you get to learn and be close to the idiosyncratic ways of the different small businesses. So it kind of gives you like a sneak peek into those worlds.
Yeah, and through that business coaching, a lot of it was to focus on the person rather than the business. I believe there's actually a bit of both. But one client I remember going to, and it was a partnership, a building supply company, and the two partners, we sat down the first meeting. One knew I was there, and the other one didn't know I was coming.
Oh gosh!
But they sat there with both looking the other way, and so for 3 months, all it was talking about roles and responsibilities. And by the end of it, we actually started sitting around a table, and that was it. With nothing to do about selling timber. It was all about how they work or didn't, or were you working together?
Do you feel like your corporate background gave you the authority and the kind of name tag to start the coaching business?
It definitely helped
Yeah.
having a brand name behind me, having that experience, and it definitely skilled in financial knowledge and finance, and all these people, they're good at doing what they did but didn't understand the numbers behind their business. And that's right, accounting is a great background as a foundation stone. Don't need to stay in that all your life, but learn it, because no matter what you're doing, you're in business to make money. Yeah, hopefully. And so so learn about that, but to the level that you need to, and then get people to help you where you need it.
Through your business coaching, did you find that there were any similar challenges that the people that you were working with were facing?
Yeah, well, that all wanted to make more money. That was it. So the timber guys, that was just getting them to work together as a partnership. Others, it's about a pet shop. I worked in a pet shop, and one of the big issues with the team, and they hated cleaning up the cages and this and that, but they, we did a line-in series, and we got people to actually systemize the process of cleaning the cages.
Yeah.
Have a timetable. This is how you do it. These are the steps. Got them to take ownership from it, and just the whole thing turned around. So they actually enjoyed it, and they knew what they're doing and when. So so as part of that whole business processes, that's the old standard operating procedures. If you train people, they know what they're doing, they're confident,
Yeah.
and they can feel good about what they're doing. But what you just leave it as a void, you'll get a mess.
Yeah, okay. So, with your experiences through business coaching and your kind of corporate experience, for someone who is trying to, say, start up their business in today's market, what's a key piece of advice that you would give them?
You've got to have good knowledge about what it is.
Yeah.
So you can't go into business do something there if you don't have at least the depth of knowledge in, and it's got to be something that someone else is going to pay you money for.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people happy to do things, but it's like, if no one's willing to pay you money for it, then you're never going to get anywhere. So there's that. You've got to put in lots of energy. You've got to believe in it and push it, and be as you say, be willing to flex and change as you go along. So when I started the business coaching, that was a franchise system. So a franchise platform can fill in some gaps for people who don't have it. You pay for the privilege, of course.
Yeah.
But then it's about learning to get to the stage where you can do it by yourself. So lots of different ways to do it, through your networks and friends, and again, working in different businesses to see how they do it. The beauty with auditing was you get to go into the back of many businesses, and you learn over time, ones that are run well, ones that aren't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you hopped in, it was a business coaching that you did with a partner, is that correct?
Yes.
So what advice would you give to someone who's going to launch into a business with a friend, having experienced what you've experienced?
Yes.
What would you suggest?
Well, and it's back to like the timber guys. It's a bit of roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Pretty clear spinning out. And I think you're going to have that trust, but you want to also legalize it and document it, and make sure everyone's clear what it is. And it can work well if people are putting in the same energy and effort, and working towards the same goal. And you see it quite often where, if they don't have that good discussion up front, you find out a bit down the line.
So expectation setting, basically.
Yes, yeah, and at the end of the day, the ownership structure, the dividend flow, who earns what.
Yeah.
So people don't want to necessarily talk about money, but it's Wayne's business, right? You're not in business for, this is, you got to look after your family. And,
Yeah. So on your family, so you started this company, and so you're married and you had one child.
this girl is.
So that's challenging just by itself, right? Yeah. So how did that work from a family point of view?
Well, the challenge was leaving a good paid job and going into a role with no income.
Yeah.
So I had to get out and start selling.
Mm-hmm.
And so within the framework, it's like had some early successes, but then really, got distracted by family, young family. And so that became very difficult. So yeah, and a lot of lessons. There was not a financial success, but it's sort of, I think the payback that's coming now wasn't at that point in time.
I suppose the reason I asked that question is I suppose one of my fears, if my partner had chosen to go down this path, was the whole, well, how do we have this, work-life balance? Like, first of all, can you actually do that when you're starting up a business? And then, what would be your suggestions around trying to balance it as much as possible? But, being realistic about it.
Well, I think it's okay not to be balanced.
Yep.
And that's the thing. That's the traps I fell into is I'm at work, but I want to be with my young family.
Yeah.
When I'm with my family, it's like, I should be at my work. So not being present at either.
Yeah.
So there are times when you need to be out of balance. And you've got to have agreement with your family to support you through that. And yeah, you do need to create some cash flow. You need to create some wins and feel good about the process and make sure you're tracking in the right direction. And where am I going and how am I getting there? And or else, you lose the motivation.
I suppose it's that, like you say, that initial conversation up front, right? Yes. And then how do you bring everybody along with you on that journey?
That's true. Yeah. And it's the alignment and the same goals. And it's not easy. And sometimes couples don't talk about it the best. Yeah, harder to talk at home than at work, about these things. But yeah.
I don't think you can have work-life balance.
Yeah. Well, you're in a similar situation, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we set the expectation earlier that this was for the greater good, and
Yes.
until further notice, and there's kind of a level of kind of priority that's necessary in order to achieve our goals.
Yeah.
And I guess I've fell into it a little bit through my first business. I mean, my jewelry business, for example, it kind of just happened organically. And then with the second business, I had this ambition, but I didn't set the expectations. And then obviously as time went on, and then obviously through this business, the expectations are more aligned and well communicated. Because I think if the other person doesn't know why, then it becomes really difficult. I think that's when there's a bit of a void, because they're like, almost, my wife would take it personally almost that there was such a priority elsewhere. It's
not easy. It's a line to treat it. And sometimes you get it wrong. And
Well, I suppose it's just that, understanding that you're a human being, right? None of us perfect. We're all doing our best.
yes, the intention is good, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily work out. Yeah.
So you mentioned you built 3 children.
Actually, 4.
Oh, 4 children. Oh. So, we talk about intergenerational wealth on, you mentioned that from a financial side of things, at least, there was no, kind of hand up for you. Have you thought about that? Is that a conversation you've had with your partner? Something that you want to give your children?
Well, I look back, we've all been, as humans, we've been here thousands of years, and I look back and go, all my ancestors have not given me a starting point.
Yeah.
So that's important for me, is to try and set something up for the next generation within my means, and also it's the balance of looking after the younger generation as well as looking after a bit of reward for all my hard work and my wife's work. And so it's that balance of creating some capital and making sure that you'll have the next generation. So it does start building some wealth because certainly the old family money and not having any, it's like, oh God, let's go. But it's so easy, because having a capital base to start from does make the journey a bit easier. That just means you've got to do a bit more heart, more sweaty, maybe take more risks and do things again. But again, it's all that balance we talked about before of getting it right for you.
double-edged sword.
Yes,
In some
that's slow and steady wins the race quite often. True.
So you've got your company. What else are you doing outside of that to build you well?
So I invest in an IT NSP. So that's another business that we run. So I'm the director in there,
Okay.
and it's got 40 people. So we're looking to grow that through acquisitions and mergers as well as organically. And so that's another avenue of growth. And And yeah, and through my son starting to look at some equities as well. So
Public equities or
yeah, no, so a few just others. So we got some Rocket Lab shares on the IPO, and
Oh, of course.
sort of following that ride through. So that's quite interesting. So yeah, so just getting building that interest and some
is that like a family share club?
yeah. Well, they start with a non-cash thing, but it's great for that. And they've actually sort of gone into it by themselves and felt interested in it. So that's great. But you don't do it well in New Zealand. So.
No, I think there's a sense of security in assets that aren't regularly marked.
Yeah, well, the tangible, what is not tangible, but also, yeah, a lot to learn around that. So, and what does the market do as opposed to economic fundamentals? Sometimes it's not necessarily in line.
Mind. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
How do you teach your children to think like that?
well, I think it's just through osmosis. It's just we don't sit down and do things specifically for it.
Yeah.
There's discussion at the dinner table. There's been a few board games and things like that. I've given them like Rich Dad Poor Dad to read and things like that. So Frank, give them those tools. My son's gone through a leadership training course at uni.
Okay.
So he's been exposed to personality profiling and things like that. So all these things, they all add up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So on your, I suppose, your journey on building your wealth and your family's wealth, it's not all financial, right? So there's health, mental, physical, all that kind of thing. What have you kind of done in that space to look after yourself?
Well, I guess I think it's always been important for me to expose kids to lots of activities, especially outdoor activities. I think you learn a lot more through doing things.
Yes.
And yes, we've got too much of a health and safety culture, but so getting out, bush, beach, sailing.
Yeah.
There's activities. Two older sons have been through West Hampshire Street Search and Rescue,
Oh, yeah.
which is a great development that's been set up in the last few years. And so going out and actually spending nights in the bush by themselves, doing a lot of orienteering and flats. So that's been a really good thing to develop your own independence and to learn about life outside the suburban lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah, so really cool for that. Lots of different experiences. My wife is Czech, so traveling back to Europe, so there's a lot of that. So they also get exposed to a different language.
Yeah.
And that helps their mind develop different than if you're like me with just one language. Yeah. So the ability to wire your brain into different.
So cool. Cool thing to get your kids involved in. Yeah. Yeah. So if you were to give some advice to someone maybe who is in the middle of their wealth journey, so someone, let's say they're in their 40s, they've got a company, they're pedaling away really hard, what would it be?
Work on your business, not in your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's the simple one-liner. Yeah. So yeah, it's about the business is something that can work without me.
Yes.
This is the tagline, and that means team, systems, process, developing. But to me, business is recurring cash flows. You want to have a process that you don't want to be out there like trying to resell something every time.
Yes.
So like if you're a great salesman and you enjoy that, great. Have horses for courses. But if you're in the business, and most people are great salespeople, so they're good at doing something.
Yeah.
So you won't really want a business is about customers coming back to you, so you get that lifetime value of that customer relationship, and that gets a bit more rewarding when you're dealing with the same people over years, and hopefully that builds business value as the recurring cash flows. If you're having to sell something new all the time, you're going to need real high sales costs, so you can see margin and you just find some keeping. So yeah, work on your business, build those customer relationships and supplier relationships too. It's how does it work? Don't make it reliant on me.
Yes.
And if you make it reliant on me, then I can't replace myself. I need to say I'm not business can carry on without me, and then it's working, right? It's a business. Otherwise, it's a hobby, or it's just me, my business. Yeah.
Sole tradership. It's you're employed at that point.
Yeah. So we see us, I've come across that where people can grow from one man to main band. They get up to 6, 7, 8. There's a lot of admin, managerial, and you start dealing with people issues, and then you become non-fee earning, and then all of a sudden you've got 6 people, but they're really just working to make margin to pay your salary.
Okay.
And so quite a few people they choose to go back to being one person.
Yeah.
What I found is the bigger the team, the easier it's got.
Okay.
In my current role, we had 8 staff, 6 or 8. One would leave, and it's, oh no, big gap. How do we fill this? How do we manage the transition? Now with 40 people, one person leaves, it's like,
So big.
we just manage around it. So that part becomes simpler, but then of course adds in a lot of other complications. But the bigger the firm, the bigger the more leverage, the more systems, more complications, but also the ability to earn more as well.
It's okay.
Yeah, nice. And acquisition potential. At the end of it, you mentioned that.
Yeah, to grow my business has been through organic growth. It's been through acquisitions and some mergers, and again, doing really, really great service to, get word of mouth referrals.
And are you optimizing those businesses that you're focused on at the moment to eventually exit to a larger player, or?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's correct. I mean, you buy a business, you're going to sell it at some point, right? Yeah. So you don't want to wind it. I've seen people, they just as they get older, they slow down, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing left.
Yeah. Or there's no succession.
No succession planning. I've already started it about 5 years ago with my own practice, with bringing in youngest people and getting them involved in small ownership to build their confidence up. And so that deals with getting them used to being a business owner, right? There's a different mindset between an employee to a business owner. And good to have skin in the game. Skin in the game. Yeah, make them think differently. It's like, and then it's very obvious of discussions of spending company money. Should we do this? And the employers are really happy to spend all the money, but once you realize that's either in my pocket or it's on me, it's like, let you think twice about that. So yeah, I think it's really useful in changing that mindset. You definitely once your house is on the line, and you slip. Oh,
There you go. I was going to do that question again.
Go for it.
What did the last 10 years of your life look like?
I just read it go die. Question about that's why in my ear.
the last 10 years or my last 10?
Yours last 10 years.
Yeah, of your life.
So if you look forward,
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'm a tip. Okay. I think what I've seen is older people are mentally active. They can they just keep they have a good life. Obviously the physical health is crucial.
yes, I
You don't know who can be struck with whatever, but I've gone back 8 generations, and all my fathers have all lived to about 90.
Oh, yeah.
So got good genes. So I've got a plan for that. And so, like, I'm already at Brandy, so the next generation has started. So yeah, I'm ahead of the game on that. So, and with four children, you extrapolate it out. It's still going to be very busy family-wise. A lot of travel. And so, yeah, hopefully active and through that, and doing things I enjoy. It's keeping the brain active. So looking now, taking my knowledge into more directorships and things like that. So doing less time intensive, but more value creation through my experience and what I've learned over my career. I know I think ability would provide good advice. So having the right things in that area to do, and then I'm hoping to travel the world multiple times, to do more travel and different things, and experience all those things. So so Keating sort of had the house to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be great.
And
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. A good episode. So,
Okay.
and I don't know,